Hi YouTube, Spencer Thorne here from Minds Professional Counseling and Skills Center. And today I've got a video for you on REBT, Rational-Emotive Behaviour Therapy. And this is quite a cool theory that I latched onto early in my counseling education. And it's founded by Albert Ellis, and it's rooted in the idea that people's interpretations of events influence their emotional and behavioral responses. And so I've got 10 valuable insights from REBT to share with you today. And the first one is our ABC model, and this is a core concept in REBT. You kind of teach it to your clients right away, and it stands for A is the activating event or situation or trigger. B is our belief or the interpretation about A, or the event or the activation. And then we have C, which is the consequence. This is the behavioral or emotional consequence of your belief of the event. And so this model suggests that it's not the event itself that causes emotional responses, but it's actually our beliefs about the event that cause certain reactions. And so a really quick example is if you're walking down one side of the street and you see your friend walking down the other side of the street, and you look and you wave and you say, "Hey," and they don't even see you or notice you, they just keep walking. On the one hand, you could that's the event. And on the one hand, you could believe, "Oh wow, they must not like me that much. They didn't even acknowledge me. They didn't even wave. I said, I went out of my way and said hey." And because of that belief, my consequence is I'm gonna feel upset about that. I'm gonna question our relationship. Do they even care about me? However, if I instead have the belief of, "Oh, it is kind of busy. It's a busy street. Maybe they just didn't hear me. I'll have to catch it up to them in a different time." That's going to lead to a much different emotional response from the very same event. And so that's kind of the idea behind the ABC model. And the second concept is irrational beliefs, which is, again, one of the foundational concepts of REBT, and it's that psychological distress stems from holding irrational beliefs. And these are thoughts that are generally rigid, unrealistic, and often self-defeating. And disputing and challenging these kind of beliefs are important in the REBT process. And that leads us to our third insight, which is disputing irrational beliefs. And so we have A, B, and C, and we can add on D to the end of that, giving us disputing. And so we dispute the irrational beliefs by all sorts of different ways: gathering evidence for or against, experiments, running tests, using logic to challenge and dispute the irrational beliefs one might be holding. And through this process, you can change maladaptive behaviors and emotions that come with it. Our fourth insight is the three core beliefs that Ellis identified people commonly hold. And these are: one is, "I must be thoroughly competent in everything." The other one is, "Others must treat me considerably and fairly." And the third one is, "The world and my living conditions must be arranged to suit my preferences." And what Ellis is getting at with these beliefs are, a lot of the times we operate in such a way that we have an undue right to control certain things that are simply out of our control. And the key words are must and always and fairly and everything. A lot of the absolutist language is what Ellis and REBT is trying to chip away at to try to form a more rational and balanced belief that leads to less psychological distress. And the fifth insight we have here is catastrophizing. And this is a very common form of irrational belief where one assumes the worst possible outcome despite no evidence to really support that, or very little evidence to support that. And the process of REBT is meant to help clients recognize and challenge these catastrophizing beliefs through evidence gathering, exposure therapy, experiments. Oftentimes we do jump to the worst possible outcome, and oftentimes it's really a survival mechanism is why we do it. However, in that process, we also put ourselves into a lot of undue pressure and stress. And so REBT is trying to balance out those catastrophizing beliefs. The sixth insight is unconditional self-acceptance. And REBT emphasizes the importance of separating one's self-worth from their behaviors. And I think this is a really important one because the key idea is our self-worth doesn't change, but our behaviors and choices that we make, we can change those. We have the power to change those. And so often we wrap up our behaviors into our self-worth, but it's not actually accurate because our self-worth as a human is constant. Our dignity as a human is constant, but the behaviors that we do is changing. And so that means we can accept our self-worth regardless of our flaws, our mistakes, our achievements, or external evaluations. 7 is secondary disturbance. And this is when an individual has an emotional reaction to another emotion, such as feeling anxious about feeling sad. And a common one I see is people feeling guilty about feeling a certain emotion. And REBT recognizes that it's important to call these out in the therapy process to help resolve some of these secondary disturbances, so we're not stacking problems on top of problems that don't necessarily need to be there. Number 8 is emotional responsibility. And REBT teaches that individuals have control over their emotions. And by identifying and modifying the beliefs that cause them, we can then improve our emotional state. And really, this is an empowering kind of message because number one, because it's true, and it also, it's a reminder that we aren't just victims to our circumstance. We can cultivate certain mindsets that lead to our flourishing than others. Number 9 is an empirical approach, and REBT encourages individuals to test out their beliefs and assumptions to see if they hold up in reality. And I think this is a very important aspect of this type of counseling or therapy, because ultimately that's our goal is. Our goal is to help clients out in the real world, because we can theory craft, day and night in the counseling office, but really taking our insights and our beliefs and testing them out into the real world, that's going to, number one, prove whether or not they work, and it's going to be much more convincing and helpful to the therapeutic process in general. And then our last insight is homework assignments. And REBT is well known for assigning homeworks to clients and practice regimens and different ways that they can reinforce the principles that are discussed and reinforce the principles that are learned in the therapy room. Sorry, my headphone disconnected. So this promotes continuous self-reflection and growth both inside and out of the counseling session. And so to wrap it up, at the heart of REBT is the idea of self-responsibility and choice. And while we might not control the external events that we find ourselves in, we have the power to control our interpretations and responses to those events. The focus on self-agency and empowerment has had a profound impact on the field of cognitive therapies, and it remains central to many approaches today. Now, personally, I think REBT has somewhat fallen out of fashion. I personally, when learning about this, I've kind of fallen in love with it. I love the direct nature of it. I think for certain clients, it's an underutilized therapy. I think there's a certain population of people that could really benefit from this type of counseling and therapy, and so I encourage you to look more into it if you are interested. And that is REBT, and I thank you all for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe for more videos.